who was like really average at Middlesbrough, but has been unbelievable for them, and Zapata as well, of course.
So I think there are a lot of interesting storylines at Atalanta. We haven't talked about it, but maybe we should have a special only on how Atalanta have become the team that they are. I mean, players like Papu Gomez, especially Papu Gomez, he was playing at Catania, then he left, he went to Ukraine, war-torn country because it was during the crisis between the Russian government and the Ukrainian government. He said, I'm out, I don't want to work in the middle of a war. And then Atalanta signed him. People remembered in Italy that he was very talented, but they didn't expect him after some time in Ukraine at Metalist to come back and be so good. Then Ilicic, another player who had a very good career at Palermo and Fiorentina, he didn't have to prove anything because he was already top class. I think he even improved more. So this is also a testament to Gasperini, who was able to put together a team of youngsters and stars that were, however, looking for some sort of redemption. So I think that Gasperini, I don't know if you remember, but he coached Inter Milan for 1 month.
Very, very briefly. Yeah.
Very, very briefly. Inter Milan shat on him intensely. Eventually he got the Atalanta job, and he's shown that Inter thing was just something that happened along his career, but it's not really defining of the manager that he is, because he did very well at Genoa. He's doing very good at Atalanta. So I don't think he really has to prove anything to anybody. He's basically creating a new level for Atalanta. I think that's
exactly. He's all about, like, his system has become like, Pep Guardiola's favorite system for a reason. If you know what I mean, that is what he does. He comes in, he implements a system. The recruitment team at Atalanta need a hell of a lot of credit, like you said, for picking out these players and building this team. That recruitment team must just be like worldwide everywhere. Like, they need their credit as well. But yeah, Gasperini is not someone who's going to come in and turn your fortunes quickly.
Talent Scout _official is a very good page that you can find on Instagram. I sent this post to Ruairi some time ago. Here are just a few of the names that came up from Atalanta's youth teams. Alessandro Bastoni, Frank Kessie, a funny one, Simone Zaza, who now plays at Torino. But there was a moment when people thought that he was actually good. Dejan Kulusevski, who's now at Juventus. Musa Barrow, oh my God, what a player. He plays at Bologna. Guys, watch one of Bologna's games. We didn't talk about it last time. Bologna's firepower up front. They've got Orsolini.
Orsolini, I love. His surname means little bear. I love it. Orsolini, right?
Little bears, like little tiny bears.
I love it.
Orsolini, Palacio, Soriano, who basically plays as a sort of false nine, always coming in from midfield and scoring. He's the best midfielder in Italy this season, in Serie A this season. And then you've got, I really watched one Bologna game. Musa Barrow is usually supposed to play on the left. You will see crosses coming in from everywhere. And then he also plays as a number 9, as a number 10. The guy has got it all. Well, he came up from Atalanta's youth system. Sportiello, who is their second string goalkeeper at the moment. Andrea Conti at AC Milan. He's kind of forgotten right now, but there was a moment where he was good. Giacomo Bonaventura.
Nice.
And then we've got Gagliardini for Inter Milan, Gabbiadini for Sampdoria. He also played in England. And these are only some of the names that have come up from Atalanta's youth ranks. So, really a praise to Atalanta's management and also to Gasperini, that I think was the perfect manager to come into this situation.
And the fact that everybody's been spouting this week, they have now paid off their wage bill just by qualifying for the Champions League last 16, and their wage bill is 10% of Manchester United, who got knocked out into the Europa League. So that is another testament to the amount of work they are doing in
36 million euros. That's the total of their wage bill for 1 year.
Crazy.
Yeah, crazy.
I'd take it. 36 million? Yeah, I'll take it. Fine.
Oh,
Where do I sign? Let's do it.
Right? But good job to Atalanta. Good job to Lazio. Good job to Atlético Madrid. Let's just take a quick look at the teams that have qualified. We've got, so the teams that qualified as the first of the groups that now are going to meet the second of the other groups. We've got Bayern, Real Madrid. Who would have thought? Real Madrid, top of the table. Manchester City, Liverpool, Chelsea, Dortmund and Juventus and PSG. And then second qualified in the group, we've got Atletico Madrid, Borussia Mönchengladbach, Porto, Atalanta, Sevilla, Lazio, Barcelona, and Leipzig.
Barcelona second. They are good. I'm going to predict it now. Whoever they get drawn against, they're going to get knocked out in the last 16. I'm telling you, they're not getting past the next round.
Woo!
Watching them against Juventus, they were absolutely atrocious. They were awful. I saw someone tweeted Barcelona are just Arsenal with Messi. The only difference is that they have Lionel Messi. They are awful.
But so what are the risks right now? I mean, there could be some very interesting matchups. There could be a Barcelona-Liverpool. There could be a Barcelona-Man City. There could be a Barcelona-Bayern. Oh, my God, they're shitting their
again. I think they're already getting flashbacks.
Yeah. And then Atalanta. Yeah, Atalanta, they're risking the same as Barcelona. Risking Lazio, same thing. Guess who's not risking anything? Inter Milan. We're really not risking dog shit. Because we're not in Europe anymore. Woo!
Well, we're going to move on to that, eh? Right?
Yeah. So right now, you're going to hear our conversation with Bryce to talk about Man U, and right after, with Uncle Sharms, who's going to tell us everything interrelated. And here we are talking about one of the craziest groups in this year's Champions League, the Group H, featuring PSG, RB Leipzig, Man U, and Istanbul. Unfortunately for our friend Bryce, exactly in this order. So we've got Bryce calling us from Chicago, Man U fan. How are you feeling?
I've been better, not going to lie. Been better. Just so gutted. I'd like to say I didn't see this coming, but after that first Istanbul loss, it was a fear that I had that kept growing and growing and growing and came to fruition.
So, yeah, it was actually Bryce who texted me right after the Man U game, and it was a very short and snappy text saying, I'm ready to talk on the pod. I've got some Man U-related things to say. And I was like, all right, man, you're on. Let's just set a date and time. So before we dive into that game, which was the key expected game, Bryce says, but unexpected too many, we've got to mention the craziness around the PSG and Istanbul game that was eventually postponed one day. PSG ended up just driving over the Turks, winning 5-1. But why was the game postponed? Because of the incident that everybody has been talking about and we can't overlook or not mention in our episode. Well, we are not going to say anything new on the matter, anything groundbreaking. But we just wanted to address that it's becoming more and more apparent that something needs to be done at an institutional level, possibly, maybe as we were discussing earlier, with a third party involved.
Well, there's two things that jumped out to me from this incident. And one of them is that, thankfully, now a team or two teams have finally made the step of just walking off the pitch and saying enough is enough. I think this is a watershed moment. And now the next time when it inevitably happens, the teams won't be afraid to walk off. The precedent has been set, and it's been set on the biggest stage. The other thing that jumped out at me was UEFA's reaction to it was, before making a statement on the referee or the fourth official, they made a statement on when the game needed to be played by. And I think that kind of sums up their priorities, that they're more concerned about, we need the administration right, before they even commented on what happened. So I think there's obviously massive negatives from a moment like this, but there are positives that could come out of it as well.
Yeah, I totally agree. I've got feelings about, PSG as a club and all of that, but, seeing the players, unanimously make the decision to walk off with the Istanbul players after all of that. And, their reaction, pretty immediately after social media from people like Neymar and Mbappe was obviously, good to see, but yeah, still just a really unfortunate.
And I think another good thing maybe about this is that right away, like both teams, like you guys were saying, stood up against it. And I feel like maybe a few years back, not that long ago, maybe nothing would have happened. But yeah, so we shall see what happens concerning that game. what we know for sure is that Man U are going to play Europa League. So Bryce meets Ruairi on Thursday evening.
Welcome to the club, the cool kids
I'd like
club.
to say it's been a while since we've been here, but this is becoming an increasingly familiar feeling. So
yeah, Bryce, what were your reactions after the Man U Leipzig game? What were your feelings before, during, after the game?
So my first feeling came the moment I saw the team sheet. I saw the back five. Let's not, play around. It's a back five. It's not a back three. And I actually, it's funny. I wrote down in my diary what I thought the lineup would be, and that's exactly what it was. And I thought to myself, if I predicted that, who else predicted that? Was Julian Nagelsmann, because that dude's smart.
That's a very fair point.
Yeah. And I'm like, this is what everybody and their mom knew United were going to do. And if you're going to, Nagelsmann's going to take advantage of that. And, he certainly did. I am going to maybe generously give Ollie a bit of a bone here. And I think that he was planning on having Pogba play perhaps instead of McTominay. But we all know what happened with Mino Raiola.
He tends to pick his moments, right? He really picks his moments.
And I think that after that, there was no way Pogba could start the game. I was honestly a little disappointed when he came on, even as a sub. But I just think the choice of McTominay and Matic, just so static, so slow, the lack of skill in there, they were just going to get eaten up by Leipzig's midfield. I mean, Maguire, goodness gracious, you can't the third goal. I don't know.
Please elaborate. we want this.
I just, I think I said something that I thought was pretty clever in the moment, but for a man who's got such a massive head on his shoulders, there doesn't seem to be very big of a brain in between those two ears. It's just the guy just has these moments of just I've never seen anything like it. I've never seen anything like it from a Premier League Manchester United 80 million pound captain,
Well, the moment that stands out to me was last year in the Europa League against Sevilla. There's that photo of the ball coming through and he's just looking the wrong way compared to the rest of the defence.
Yeah.
I feel like Maguire is, because of his transfer fee, he's obviously a bit of a lightning rod. People are very quick to criticise him, and he's had some very good games for United this year, but he's also had some very, very terrible games for United this year, and I think this week's definitely is in the second column rather than the first.
Oh yeah, and I do feel for him a little bit. He didn't say I'm an 80 million pound player. Mm-hmm. That's what Leicester said. United were dumb enough to pay it. That's not his problem. I don't think he should be a captain. I think he leads neither vocally nor with his actions. So why he's the captain, I don't know. But yeah, and we part of the reason we paid that was for his aerial ability. And he doesn't, he does have some games where he is pretty commanding in the air, but so many games, especially, when you've got Bruno Fernandes and Alex Telles whipping in balls on corners, he needs to get on the end of those. And like you said, on defense, so often he isn't attacking the cross, and it just leads to problems because Lindelof is both a liability in the air and on the feet because he's not very fast. I think he reads the game okay, but I just think that physically he's not up to snuff.
Yeah, I think. I think he's much better at reading the game than Maguire. And yeah, the fact that Maguire can't win balls in the air is definitely a concern. Definitely a concern. But I think coming back to the captain thing, it's also a comment on the characters within the United changing room that he is the candidate to be captain. I think because beyond him, there's not another player who I would go, apart from Fernandes, who's been there 5 minutes. There's not another player who I'd go, well, he clearly should be captain.
Well, you'd think maybe, people have their thoughts on having goalkeeper as captain, but, De Gea's been there a long time, used to be, one of the top two best goalkeepers in the world. He's been around the block, but, his form has obviously dipped as well. And, clearly he's not super vocal. I mean, it's one of the things that I've picked up since there's been nobody in the stands is you can hear the players on the pitch. And United don't talk to each other. They don't. They're not. It's insane to me. I mean, we were talking about it earlier. That Demba Ba goal, against Istanbul, there a shout, some kind of like heads up
Just
coming from
say
either the
something,
players
say
or
something.
the coaches could have prevented that, and it didn't happen. But just to kind of get back to this game really quick, I think the overarching thing that I took away from this is that